Hello, this will be lesson 3.2b. We will be talking about additive inverses today. And this is the second part of our two-part lesson about adding rational numbers. So let's begin. Share my screen with you. Press play. So adding rational numbers part B. I can add three rational numbers together and I can find the additive inverse of a number. We're still working in standard NS1 and standard NS1D. So 1A and 1D. Describing situations in which opposite quantities combine to make zero, that's today. Adding properties of operations as strategies to add and subtract rational numbers. So we're continuing our lesson from yesterday. Okay, this guy says what? What is additive inverse? Close myself out here, and you should be able to answer that question at the end of the lesson. So we need a definition of an additive inverse. An additive inverse is the opposite of a number. It is the same distance from zero on the number line, but on the opposite side of zero. The sum of a number and its additive inverse is equal to zero. And zero is its own additive inverse. So here's some examples. You have -5, you're adding +5. That's the additive inverse. The answer will be 0. Here you have +14, you're adding the additive inverse of -14. Your answer will be 0. Here's how it looks in the real world. A football team loses 3.5 yards. So let me underline that. Loses 3.5 yards on their first play. On the next play, they gain 3.5 yards. What is the overall increase or decrease in yards? So we're going to bring our number line down. Notice how 0 is on the right here. What is it split into? Always look at your number line so you know. This is split into 1/4, right? So this is -1/4, -1/2, -3/4, -1, -1 1/4. -1.5, -1 3/4, -2, etc. Okay, step 1 is to use a positive number to represent the gain in yards and a negative number to represent the loss in yards. So there we are at -3.5 because that's the loss in yards. And we're going to have to jump 3.5 in the direction of the right side because -3.5 is the loss. +3.5 is the gain. So how would I jump 3.5 to the right? Because it's a positive. This is going to give me 1. This is going to give me 2. This is going to give me 3. And this is going to give me half. Make sure you understand what I just did. Because I'm starting in the middle of 3.5. My one whole jump is going to be in the middle of 2.5. My next whole jump is going to be in the middle of 1.5. And my next jump, the whole jump, is going to be at half. And then I'm going to be a half more because that's 3.5, 3.5 yards. So our arrow should come out, show us that. We're starting at -3.5 and we're moving 3.5 to the right. We're going to end up on 0. The additive inverse of -3.5 is +3.5, and the answer will be 0. There's your answer. Okay, let's take a look again. Kendrick makes 3/4 of a cup of chicken stock to a pot. Adds it to a pot. Then he takes 3/4 of a cup of stock out of the pot. What is the overall increase or decrease in the amount of chicken stock in the pot? Well, they are additive inverses, are they not? There's our number line. It's the same graduations as the last number line. They're in quarters. Step 1, use a positive number to represent chicken stock added and a negative number to represent chicken stock taken out of the pot. 3/4 plus -3/4. Find 3/4 plus -3/4. Start at 3/4 on your number line. There's our 3/4. Notice how it's 3 marks past 0. And now we're going to add negative 3/4. So we're going to go to the right. We're going to go to the left, not the right. We're going left. Left is correct, not right. Left is right, but it's also correct. Never mind. Okay, so 3/4, there's 1/4, there's 2/4, and there is 3/4. We will end up on 0. There's our arrow showing 3 jumps to the left, and we'll end up on 0. Remember, additive inverses add together to give you 0. Okay, it's your turn to try a problem with an additive inverse. Welcome back. Let's continue. How about regrouping numbers? Have you heard of the associative property of addition? The associative property says that when you are adding more than 2 numbers, you can group them in any of the numbers together. And that's very helpful with positives and negatives. So here's an example. Tina spent $5.25 on craft supplies to make friendship bracelets. She made $3.75 on Monday. On Tuesday, she sold an additional $4.50 worth of bracelets. What was Tina's overall profit or loss? Step 1, use negative numbers to represent the amount Tina spent and positive numbers to represent the amount Tina earned. So we got to go back to our numbers. What do we have? She spent $5.25. She made or earned $3.75. And then she earned an additional $4.50 on Tuesday because she sold them. So she made money. So we're going to write the equation. Negative $5.25, that's her spent money, plus positive $3.75, plus positive $4.50. Now we're going to use the associative property of addition to group the numbers that have the same sign together as we're figuring out the answer. So group numbers with the same sign. I'm going to put a parentheses around those two because I'm grouping those, and I'm going to add those together first. Add the numbers inside the parentheses, then subtract. Why are we going to subtract after we add them? Because we have a negative number here, and this is going to give us a positive number. So when you have 2 different signed numbers, you are subtracting them. And then we're going to find the answer by subtraction and take the sign of the bigger absolute value number. So 3.75 plus 4.5 will give us 8.25. And then we subtract the $5.25 out of that to come up with $3. So the change was a profit of $3. Clear my drawings. Continue on with regrouping using the associative property. We have negative 1.5 plus 3.5 plus 2. We want to group the ones with the same sign together. So step 1, we're going to group the numbers with the same sign. There we go. They both have the same sign. If necessary, I could have rearranged the numbers and put them together. If the negative 1.5 was in the middle of them, I could have just moved it and just kept the 2 positives together. I'm going to add the numbers in the parentheses first, and then I'm going to subtract that answer from the other number, from negative 1.5, because those are different signs. So 3.5 plus 2, notice how I'm lining up my dot. I put a 2.0 here so I could make sure I lined up my dot. Add that together, 5 plus 0 is 5, 3 plus 2 is 5, I get 5.5. And then I'm going to subtract out a 1.5 because they're different signs. So let's subtract that out. So 5 minus 5 is 0 here, and 5 minus 1 is 4. I should end up with 4.0. Not too bad, is it? Let's try another one. 3 1/4 plus negative 2 plus negative 2 1/4. Step 1, I'm going to group numbers with the same sign. So we have 2 signs with negatives, or 2 numbers with negatives. So I'm going to group those. And then I'm going to add the numbers in the parentheses. Then I'm going to subtract my answer from the positive 3 1/4. So let's see how that's going to work. We've got our 2 1/4 at the top there. It's negative. Notice how I put the -2 1/4 at the top, right? And then I have -2, and I'm going to line that up with my whole number, and then I'm going to add them together. That's going to give me 1/4 plus nothing is 1/4, and -2 plus -2 will give me -4 and 1/4. Now I have to subtract that from 3 and 1/4 because that's a positive number. So let's put that underneath. Line up our fractions, line up our whole numbers. Remember, we're subtracting. So we end up getting 1/4 minus 1/4 is nothing. And 4 minus 3 is 1. And since this is the bigger number, the negative sign, we're going to give it a -1. So that answer is -1. Make sure you understand that and don't get confused. It'll just get more confusing on the next lesson when we do subtraction. Okay, you get to give this a try. I'll see you back in a moment. Okay, we're on the focus on higher order thinking. So can you find the sum of this equation without performing any additions? Can you? Well, do you notice anything? I'm noticing something right now. Let me get a different color here. Do you notice how these are additive inverses? And notice how these are additive inverses. Does that help you figure it out without adding it together? Those two are additive inverses. Their answer will be 0, right? -2.3 plus +2.3 will give you 0. And the other two are additive inverses, and their sum will also be 0. So what's the answer to that equation? The answer is 0. Not as bad as it looked, was it? I have a song for you. So let's play that song about the commutative property and the associative properties. See if it plays. Should play. It's to the tune of Taylor Swift. Stay, stay, stay. I'll turn it up.
When I was in the younger grades, I learned about addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division too. I was expecting math would always stay the way. I thought I knew all there was to know and do. That's when my teacher taught me all about math properties, the rules and regulations of how numbers behave. It's really not that difficult once you get the hang of the tricks of the trade. Just say cumulative means you change the order, and associative means to change the grouping and distributive. Multiply the outside by the in. With identity properties, you get the same answer by multiplying by 1 or adding 0. Multiplicative inverse means you take a number and flip it. You multiply across the answers always 1, and cumulative means you change the order, and associative means you change the grouping, and distributive multiply the outside by the in. Zero properties mean that when you multiply by 0, the answer is 0 all the time. Use these properties when doing mental math. You'll find that it is easier all the time. Means you change the order, and associative means you change the grouping, and distributive multiply the outside by the in.
All right. There we go. Let's continue on. So we are to the point where we're talking about your homework for 3.2b, and that will be on Google Classroom for you. So you have a good day, and I will see you next lesson. Bye.